They once promised they would never drift apart. It started as a simple circle of friends, late-night talks, shared meals, and dreams that stretched far beyond their small world. Within that circle they found each other first. Ethan Valerio was the quieter one, observant, grounded, the kind of person who noticed everything but said only what mattered. Adrian Reyes was the opposite, warm, impulsive, and impossible to ignore. He filled rooms with laughter, and somehow Ethan always found himself drawn to that light. What began as friendship slowly unraveled into something deeper, something neither of them dared to name, until it ended, not with a fight, not with betrayal, but with silence. Adrian left for another country, no dramatic goodbye, just distance, time zones, and unanswered messages that eventually stopped coming, and Ethan, he let him go. Years passed, the friend group never truly moved on. They stayed in touch, but something was missing. Then one day, the group chat lit up again, Adrian coming back. Just like that, the circle that once felt whole was about to be complete again. Day Adrian returned, he was greeted at the airport by their friends, laughter, hugs, and loud excitement echoing through the terminal. Everyone was there, except Ethan. When asked, Ethan only gave a quiet excuse. I had something to take care of. No one questioned him, but Adrian noticed. That evening, a small celebration was held at one of their friends' homes. Lights were soft, music low, and the air filled with familiar voices trying to bridge the gap of years. Adrian arrived late, and not alone. Ethan noticed immediately the way Adrian walked in with someone new beside him, the way his hand occasionally lingered, polite but present, the way the others greeted them both without hesitation. Something inside Ethan tightened, but his expression never changed. Calm, controlled, he greeted Adrian like everyone else, like nothing ever happened. As the night went on, drinks were passed around, stories were told, and laughter flowed again just like before. Ethan stayed quiet for most of it, but sometimes when he looked up he caught Adrian looking at him, not once, not twice, but enough to make him wonder. He brushed it off, it meant nothing, it had to mean nothing. When the night ended, arrangements were made for sleeping. Back then, Ethan and Adrian always shared a room whenever the group stayed over. It was something unspoken, natural, like breathing. But now Adrian had someone else, so Ethan slept alone. The room felt too quiet. Lying on the bed, Ethan stared at the ceiling, hands resting at his sides. He told himself, I've moved on, this doesn't affect me anymore, but sleep came slowly. When it did, it wasn't deep. In the early hours of dawn, somewhere between waking and dreaming, Ethan felt it, a presence, a hand brushing his face, warm breath against his skin, a voice soft, familiar, trembling slightly, I missed you, a kiss light as a memory brushed against his cheek. Ethan's mind screamed to move, to open his eyes, to speak, but his body wouldn't respond, and before he could understand what was happening, the presence was gone. When morning came, it felt like a dream. But the warmth lingered, and the words stayed. Over the next days, things returned to a strange kind of normal. They hung out, they laughed, they talked, but something was always there, unspoken, unresolved. Between Ethan and Adrian there were moments where their eyes met too long, moments where words almost came out but didn't, moments where the past lingered between them like an unfinished sentence. But Ethan tried, he tried to keep his distance. He tried to accept the truth, Adrian had moved on. Adrian was happy with someone else, at least that's what he believed. One evening, everything changed again. A familiar face from Ethan's time abroad appeared without warning. Lucas Hart, the friend who had once helped him through his life overseas, stood at his doorstep, slightly breathless from travel. I followed you back, Lucas said, smiling, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. Ethan hesitated, then sighed. You can stay. There was no extra room, so they shared one, just like Ethan and Adrian once did. Lucas was different. He stayed close, closer than necessary. He laughed more at Ethan's jokes, sat nearer than space allowed, and sometimes, just sometimes, his gaze lingered in a way that felt intentional. It wasn't hard to guess. Lucas had feelings, but Ethan didn't take it seriously, not because he didn't notice, but because a part of him still wasn't ready. And then came the fishing trip. They went to a quiet resort by the water. The group split into small clusters, each enjoying the day in their own way. Ethan stood by the dock holding a fishing rod, unsure how to properly use it. Lucas approached from behind. Here, Lucas said gently, guiding Ethan's hands, like this. He leaned in closer, closer than necessary. From behind, Lucas adjusted his grip, his chest lightly pressing against Ethan's back, his voice low and warm as he guided him step by step. It should have been nothing, just help, just a moment, but someone saw Adrian. Ethan didn't turn around immediately, but he felt it, the shift, the tension, the quiet, sudden silence from the group, and then he stepped away from Lucas. I got it, Ethan said softly. Without another word, he walked back toward the cabins. Unaware that someone followed him, Ethan hadn't reached the door yet when a hand grabbed his wrist. Firm, sudden, he was pulled back, pressed against the wall. And there, standing close enough to feel his breath, was Adrian. His expression was no longer calm, no longer distant. His grip tightened slightly as he looked at Ethan with something raw, something he had buried for far too long, and then he spoke. I don't like seeing you with someone else. Ethan froze, because for the first time in years, Adrian wasn't hiding anymore. Ethan couldn't move, not because he was weak, but because for a moment everything felt like it had stopped. Adrian was too close. Too real. His grip on Ethan's wrist wasn't painful, but it was firm, like he was afraid that if he let go, Ethan would disappear again. Their breaths mingled in the narrow space between them, and then Adrian spoke again, quieter this time but more curt. "I don't like seeing you with someone else." Ethan blinked, confusion breaking through his calm mask. "That's not your place anymore," he said softly, but Adrian didn't back away. Instead, his gaze darkened, something raw, something long buried, finally breaking free. "Not my place." Adrian echoed, a bitter laugh escaped him, but there was no humor in it. "I left because I thought you were moving on." His grip tightened slightly. "I left because I thought I was the one being left behind." Ethan's breath hitched for a second, just a second. His composure cracked, but he forced it back into place. "You left without saying anything," Ethan replied. "You made that choice." Adrian's jaw clenched. "I thought you didn't care." Silence fell between them, heavy, unforgiving. Footsteps echoed faintly in the distance, someone calling for them, but neither of them moved. Adrian took a step closer, then another, until there was barely any space left between them. "Tell me," Adrian said, voice lower now, almost shaking, "do you still feel something for me?" Ethan looked away. For the first time since the confrontation began, his silence stretched, too long, too telling. Adrian's expression changed. A flicker of desperation crossed his face, and then without waiting for an answer he pulled Ethan closer and kissed him. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't careful, it was urgent, possessive, like years of silence were being forced into a single moment. Ethan froze, his mind went blank. For a split second he didn't react, didn't push away, didn't respond, and that was enough. Adrian pulled back slightly, searching Ethan's face, waiting, hoping, but Ethan stepped back hard, breaking the space between them, his chest rising and falling faster now. "Don't," he said, voice sharper than before, "you don't get to do that." The rejection hit harder than Adrian expected. For a moment his expression faltered. "Then tell me to stop," Adrian said, almost pleading now. "Tell me you don't feel anything anymore." Ethan said nothing. Because the truth was more complicated than either of them wanted to admit. Before the silence could stretch further, Ethan turned away and walked off. He didn't look back. That night Ethan couldn't sleep. Again, the room felt smaller than before. He sat on the edge of the bed, hands gripping the fabric of his pants, trying to steady his breathing. What was that? Why now? Why after all this time? A knock came, soft, then the door opened. Adrian stepped in without waiting for permission, without saying a word. Ethan didn't look at him. "Go back to your room." "I don't have one," Adrian replied quietly. "I'm staying here tonight." Ethan finally looked up. Their eyes met again, and for a moment the distance between them didn't feel like years, it felt like seconds. "You shouldn't," Ethan said, but there was no real force behind it. Adrian took a step closer, then another, until he stopped just a few steps away from Ethan's bed. "I didn't come back just to pretend," Adrian said, his voice softened. "I came back because I couldn't stop thinking about you." Ethan's fingers tightened slightly, but he stayed quiet. "I tried," Adrian continued. "I tried to move on." A bitter smile crossed his lips. "I even convinced myself I had." He looked down for a moment, then back at Ethan. "But seeing you again," he exhaled, "I realized I never did." Ethan's heart beat louder, but his expression stayed guarded, careful, controlled. "You're not the only one who changed," Ethan said finally. Adrian didn't respond immediately. Instead, he walked closer, slow, measured, until he was right beside the bed. Then he stopped. "I know," Adrian said quietly, "and I'm not asking you to forget everything." A pause. Just long enough for the weight of his next words to settle. "I just want to know," his voice softened, "if I still have a chance." Ethan looked at him, really looked at him, not the Adrian who left, not the Adrian who returned with someone else, but the Adrian standing in front of him now, honest, uncertain, vulnerable, and Ethan for the first time didn't have an immediate answer, because the truth was, he never truly moved on, he just learned how to live without saying it out loud. And that night in the quiet of the room they once shared, neither of them spoke the words they both feared, but neither of them slept alone. Morning came too quietly. Ethan woke first. For a moment he forgot where he was until he felt the familiar weight of the room, the soft morning light, and the presence beside him. Adrian, asleep, peaceful, too close. Ethan stayed still, staring at the ceiling, trying to steady the storm inside his chest, because something had shifted, and he knew it. But before anything could be said, before anything could be understood, they had to face the others. That afternoon the group gathered again. It was meant to be another simple outing, food, laughter, and time together, but the atmosphere felt different, tense, watching. Luca's heart was already there, and he wasn't quiet about his presence. He stayed close to Ethan, too close, resting an arm lightly over his shoulder as they walked. It wasn't just comfort anymore, it was intentional, and someone noticed. Adrian Reyes watched from a short distance, his expression unreadable at first, then slowly tightening, but this time Adrian didn't stay silent. Later that day the group went fishing by the resort again, the same place, the same setting, but not the same moment. Lucas stood behind Ethan, guiding him again, close, comfortable, almost familiar, but this time Adrian didn't look away, he stepped forward. And everyone felt it. Without warning, Adrian grabbed Ethan's wrist, firm, immediate, and pulled him away from Lucas. The group froze, even Lucas. Enough, Adrian said, his voice steady but edged with something intense. He turned to Ethan, his gaze unwavering. I'm done watching you act like none of this matters. Ethan's heart pounded. Adrian. But Adrian didn't let him finish. I lied. The words cut through the air. I didn't move on, A beat. I dated someone else because I was scared. His grip tightened slightly. Scared that you already had someone waiting for you. Silence fell heavy. And when I saw you with him, Adrian glanced briefly at Lucas, I thought I was too late. Ethan's breath caught. Because now, everything made sense. The jealousy, the distance, the way Adrian avoided him, the way he returned but never fully let go. Adrian stepped closer, his voice dropped quieter but more urgent. I never stopped loving you, gasps from the group, even Lucas went still. Adrian didn't care, he kept his focus on Ethan. So tell me the truth, Adrian said, voice shaking slightly now. Do you still feel the same? Ethan's lips parted but no words came out at first because this was it, no more hiding, no more pretending. Lucas looked at Ethan, then slowly, quietly stepped back. I think I understand now, Lucas said softly. His voice wasn't bitter, just honest. I came too late. And with that, he let go. Now it was just them. Ethan and Adrian, the past, the present, and everything they had been avoiding. Ethan took a slow breath. His voice, when it came, was quiet but steady. You didn't come too late, a pause, but you didn't wait either. Adrian flinched. Ethan stepped closer, not away. I told myself I moved on, Ethan continued, because I thought you had. His voice softened, but I never stopped thinking about you. The words hung in the air, heavy, true. Adrian's breath hitched. So what now? He asked, almost afraid of the answer. Ethan looked at him, really looked. No more walls, no more distance. Now, Ethan said quietly, I stopped pretending. A silence. Then Ethan reached out and gently took Adrian's hand. Adrian froze, then slowly he held on, not tightly, not possessively, but carefully, like something fragile, something they were both afraid to lose again. And this time, neither of them let go. That night they returned to the place where it all began, not as exes, not as strangers, but as something in between, something still being rebuilt. The others gave them space. They didn't ask questions, they didn't interfere, they just understood, because sometimes love doesn't end, it just gets lost, and sometimes all it takes is choosing each other again. Ethan and Adrian stood by the window that night, the world quiet around them. You're not leaving again, Ethan said softly. It wasn't a question. Adrian smiled faintly. No, he replied, not this time. And this time they believed it.